Be all set.
Do you want to go grab it? Yeah, that's perfect. All right, I'll call us to order. Welcome, everybody, to Planning Commission for March 11th, 2026. We've got Commissioner Mendenhall, Commissioner Woodward, myself, Vice Chair Patterson, and Commissioner Adamson. So thank you, everybody, for being here. We are going to start with a quick thought and legislative prayer from Commissioner Mendenhall, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Got to enunciate there.
Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be here in this beautiful city and serving here, and the opportunity to serve the citizens of Centerville. We're grateful for thy blessings that are poured out upon this area. We pray, Father, that thou would be with us and bless us in our deliberations, that we think clearly and work effectively, and remember the purposes for which we've been asked to serve. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. Let's start with business item number 1, the public hearing, conditional use permit for a home occupation. Ms. Deweese.
All right, thank you, Planning Commission. As you know, how I like to report is that I give a brief overview and hope that you have read the staff report. So the applicant has submitted a request for a conditional use permit for a home occupation to conduct a home consumption and homemade food bakery in the Florentine Villa Special District of Centerville. While Miss Stasia's home is located in the Florentine Villa Special District, this district is designated for detached single-family dwellings at a density of 4 dwelling units per acre. So the reason why I pointed this out is because typically a home occupation is only allowed in the residential low area. So to be able to kind of qualify this as a home occupation area, we just looked at the standards of what is considered residential low, and to make sure that it aligns with that area, which it does. Accordingly, this request has been reviewed, the criteria applicable to the residential low zoning districts. So the code requirements for review, number 1, for home occupations, for home occupation applications to be approved, there are 4 requirements that need to be met. Number 1, no employees other than the person who resides on the premise. She has met those requirements. Number 2, no alteration to the residential character of the premise or unreasonably disturb the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. She's also met that as well. Number 3, no promotional meetings shall be held more than 1 time per month. She has met that requirement. Number 4, not cause any demand for public utilities in access of the necessary and customary provided for the residential use. She has also met that. For a conditional use permit application to be approved, there is a list of requirements that need to be met. Number 1, will the proposed use be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the persons residing or working in the vicinity or injurious to the property or improvements of the vicinity? No, it will not be. Is the proposed use compatible with the provisions intended in the general plan? Yes, it is. And then number 2, is the proposed use of the particular location necessary or desirable to provide a service or a facility which will contribute to the general well-being of the neighborhood and community? Yes, it is. Does the proposed use comply with regulations and conditions specified in this title for such use? Yes, it does. So in summary, based on these findings, staff recommend approval of the application. Should any business operations and activities deviate from these conditions listed in the staff report, then the conditional use permit should be examined and have the potential to be revoked per CZC 12.21.100. Thanks.
Excellent, thanks, Ms. DeWeese. Any questions for staff from the commission?
I think just one thing to note, and perhaps a question when it comes to the conditional use permit. One of the aspects that was discussed in reviewing the packet was related to the potential traffic and parking impacts, that those would generally be light, and I would just want to make sure that under the conditional use, when we're talking health, safety, and well-being, that should the business begin to generate traffic in excess of what we would consider that threshold of well-being, that be accounted for.
Yeah, so a comment to that, thanks for bringing that up. I did communicate with the applicant, just making sure that absolutely no street parking would be permitted. And actually in the Florentine Villas report, back and forth between the HOA president, they also indicated, hey, no street parking is allowed. In terms of picking up and dropping off, she did not expect, and she can speak to that when it's her turn to come up, but she did not expect for that much traffic to be generated. And she said that she would also schedule it to be staggered, so then no access would be waiting or coming back and forth often.
Okay, any other questions? No. All right, so who is going to speak for the applicant? Come on up to the podium, state your name, your where you live, and just kind of tell us about your business.
Sure. So I'm Stacia Lichty. I live in the Florentine Villas, just a stone's throw that way. Our back fence backs up to the Centerville Library. So we're right there. The business that we are starting is called Better Together Bakery. It is with me and a few of my children who are teenagers. So we are doing this as an attempt to help them kind of earn some of their fees toward their different athletics that they're all involved in, and have them participate in contributing to that. So we do cookies and breads and occasionally some custom things, but mainly cookies and breads.
Perfect. So that you understand, our questions are going to be oriented simply around any detrimental impacts, because by default, generally conditional uses are sort of a yes, but let's just make sure that it's not going to cause any problems.
Sure.
That's one of the ways to view that framework.
Okay.
So I have a couple questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Parking's been addressed. Are you going to take deliveries, or are you going to be going out and getting the stuff? Are you
As
going to
far
take
as the supplies to make, we're going to go and do the shopping
Okay.
ourselves. Yeah.
And then are you going to have any outdoor storage?
No.
Okay. Any different equipment than what is usual in a residential zone? Like, what are you going to be baking in, just ovens?
Yeah, we have a double oven already in the kitchen, and that's good enough for the size that we are wanting to be at.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Go ahead.
Okay, so I read in your CCRs that you can't have signs, and that was sort of addressed, but I just wanted to verify. You're not planning on putting a sign?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yep,
in
no
your-
signs.
Okay. Also, how are you marketing to your neighbors?
I'm on Nextdoor and Instagram and Facebook.
And word of mouth?
And yeah, a neighborhood group me.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's very cool what you're doing. So I was looking at state requirements, and I like your label, by the way, but you don't have, you're welcome, you don't have a net weight listed. Are you going to list that?
So my understanding is under the Home Consumption Homemade Food Act, the weight is not required, but it is for cottage bakery. But we're not doing
You're
the
not-
cottage.
Okay, so
Right.
you're not going to be considered that, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then I just had a question. you're not required to have one, but do you have a food handler's permit?
Yes, myself and the 3 kids that are participating all have food handlers.
Awesome. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Those are my questions.
We're excited for you to get into business.
Thank you, we are too.
Yeah, especially with your kiddos. You're teaching
Yeah.
them good things.
Great.
Thanks, yeah, it's been fun. Only a little bit of twisting of arms.
It's a little bit.
That's so rare.
We'll probably increase this time.
All right. Any further questions for the applicant? Okay.
I wouldn't say a further question, but just to kind of follow up on my question to Sydney, and I think she answered that well, and it seems like that's already been explored, but recognizing the very kind of slow speed nature of this neighborhood
Right.
and low traffic, we just want to make sure that level of traffic continues to be that way even with your use. It sounds based on what you're saying that this would generally be pretty limited and that you're going to take that time to schedule. Just want to confirm that. would be the
Correct,
case.
yeah, so we have scheduled staggered pickup times. We also offer delivery, and most people opt for that, so we deliver to South Davis County. And now that we have a couple kids with licenses, they handle that, so there's really minimal traffic to our house.
Great, thank you. Yeah, you can grab a seat. So we are, let's see. Well, you know, sorry, I got distracted. Let's go ahead and take it back to the commission. Do you guys have any further questions or debate
Do you want to go into the public hearing?
for an administrative decision? Isn't this administrative?
It's required by code. to have a
Oh, is that
public hearing.
required for conditional use?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, clearly I'm not firing on all cylinders. I'm going to open it up for the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to come and provide comment can come to the podium, and we invite anybody to do so.
Perfect.
Excellent. Seeing no other comments, I'm going to close the public hearing, and then I'm going to take it back to the commission for further discussion.
I have no concerns. I think it's fantastic.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's
am
good.
open, who would like to make a motion?
I will.
Oh, go
Lisa.
ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to make, I just had a couple suggested changes to the conditions, if
Oh.
you're inclined to go that direction.
Okay.
On the first condition, it says this conditional use permit approval shall not be transferred to another, and rather than similar user, because we don't want to argue about similar, it really shouldn't be transferred to
Find
anyone.
another user.
Yeah.
So if we could just say, shall not be transferred to
Anyone.
any other owner or operator.
Sure.
So this is since it's in a home, some conditional use permits, we do allow transfer. Most of them we do, for instance, businesses, but in a home-based occupation, we typically do not allow that. We want to know who we're dealing with. They could get, an amendment. And then on number 3, any changes to this business model, and rather than will, I would just say, any changes to this business model, adding, or any conditions of approval shall require review. So not just the business model, which is something we don't always know about, but really, if you're changing the conditions of approval, like parking, things we've talked about today, impacting the neighborhood, then that would need to come back. And then on condition number 4, just saying that if they deviate from the conditions of approval, I would suggest we just say the conditional use permit may be revoked under 1221-100. Oftentimes, we work with property owners and businesses. We don't automatically, I don't want to bind the city to say one deviation and we have to revoke it. We need to follow our own code and our code enforcement, so if we could just say may.
Okay. Can I ask a question, Lisa? So, number 1, the way that you phrased it, I was curious about. Why not just take out similar and leave it that way? Shall not be transferred to another user unless approved by the city.
Yeah, and I was just trying to be consistent with what so in number 2, we say business operator, but understanding with a home-based business, the operator has to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
You have to live there, well, maybe not the owner. So anyway, that's why, rather than user, the operative term, I believe, operator of the business or the owner of the property.
Because otherwise, if you rent it out, then it essentially would pass to the tenant, is that what you're saying?
I'd have to look.
How it reads?
I don't know if it says you have to own the house or live in the house to operate the home-based
It's
occupation.
if you reside.
If you reside, okay. So if you
Okay,
reside,
so-
so that would cover both, if, you know, let's see, shall not be transferred to, I guess you could say operator, but,
So do we want to cross out similar, or do we want to put business operator?
I just kind of like it ending there. The conditional use permit approval shall not be transferred to any other. And then it just sticks with,
I'd probably say, if you're worried about owner, then I would just use operator, because we do use operator in 2 other conditions, so that might be consistent. Do we want to say that?
Sure.
To any other operator, business operator, why don't we say that? Just the same language, to any other business operator unless approved by the city. So at that point, they could potentially come in and, it'd probably be an amendment if they wanted to transfer it to someone else. We'd require them to amend the conditional use permit.
Right, okay. Great, thank you for those suggestions. I'll take it back to the commission. Anybody want to start?
I'll make a motion.
Very good.
Can you pull that paper down a little bit, or that page? There you go. I hereby make a motion for the Planning Commission to approve the conditional use permit request for Stacia Lichty for a home occupation business use to operate a home-based bakery in following the Home Consumption and Homemade Food Act as located on parcel 02-196-0032, known as 86 South Florentine Lane, for the business Better Together Bakery. This home occupation use is subject to the following conditions of approval. 1, will make a change. It shall read, "This conditional use permit approval shall not be transferred to another business operator, user unless approved by the city."
We're taking out user, sorry.
Okay, we will just take out similar user and we will replace that with business operator. Number 2 will stand. 3, we will say, we'll change that, remove the word will. Let's see, any changes to this business model or
Conditions of approval.
or conditions of approval shall require a new review of the conditional use permit by the Planning Commission. And number 4, we will change the word shall to may be revoked instead of shall be revoked.
Very good. Nice work. All right, I have a motion on the table.
I'll second the motion.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start down here with Commissioner Adamson.
Aye.
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 Aye,
Aye.
and that is unanimous. All right, congratulations, that's one hurdle.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah,
Appropriate, we've got a couple samples here, you can just leave them.
Absolutely.
that would be fun.
That would be
They're
awesome.
under $50 and we've already made the decision.
I was gonna say,
Sounds like a joke, but that's actually
No,
true.
but really,
Good to have company in house.
anytime you want to stop by. Thanks, you guys, good luck.
it's like,
All right, let's move on.
All right,
We
you guys
will-
start. Mike and I will keep working.
I'm going to open up business item number 2, the public hearing on zoning code amendments. We've seen this, is this 3 or 4?
For history, I think it's 4,
I
yeah.
think we're at 4.
Yeah, 4.
It's an important topic, honestly, so it's going to be fun to go through. So, Mr. Eggett, I believe you're going to lead us out on this.
Yep, that-
So I'll turn the time over to you.
Appreciate it. And I'll do a background and then defer to Lisa when we get into the language and the discussion there. But to give a background on this, as you have in your packet, I went more comprehensive. I'll give a quick one. This discussion started mid-year 2025 and continued through different levels of leadership, staff leadership, some mayor and council members, even residents of the community, and obviously we were based in Water Conservancy District discussing water conservation programs and resources that are available to the city and residents of the city. One of the key ones that has come up frequently is, hey, I'd like to flip my front yard into more water conservation-based landscaping. How can I do that? And we were based in Water Conservancy District would say, can't, because your city doesn't have an ordinance that allows for that. So that's the premise of it. Obviously, given the nature of our water challenges, even going throughout this winter and coming today, that's only put more pressure on this discussion, as you can imagine. So that led to, back then, even the start of the conversation. And at the time, we presented a first draft amendment back on October 8th, 2025, had some discussion and presentation to the Planning Commission, and the request was that we contact Weaver Basin Water Conservancy District and ask them to come and be here for the October 22nd meeting to answer questions, further clarify details, those sorts of things. That was accomplished. They did attend the next meeting on October 22nd. Representative John Perry was present to answer questions of the commissioners at that time. And after the discussion, we talked about how to align their commentary and some of the Planning Commission comments, and still, I guess, clarifications or needs for further clarification within the actual language. And then the decision was to also to set it for a public hearing when it was ready to come back. So we did some more work on that throughout the month of November, and then scheduled a public hearing for it to come back on December 10th. And I think actually the direction from the Planning Commission was to give it adequate time, about a month's time, to really try to flesh out better language and better meet that demand. So that's why, again, we waited until December 10th. Then we held the public hearing on December 10th. I don't think any residents that were present really to communicate. I don't think anybody really said anything in that meeting that I can recollect. But anyway, we did then discuss internally with the Planning Commission the updated document, and there was a feeling or a consensus that we were getting closer to some of the water conservation goals we were trying to reach, but there's still some things that were hurdles. And I think we even started to peek into other issues within the landscaping code, and we're, as staff, were like, whoa, let's kind of stay in our lane for now. That starts to go into other areas that would be better for a future discussion. And so the direction was to further work with the water district, to work closer with the guidance of the city attorney in the interim, and bring it back to the Planning Commission at such time it was ready to do so. And then clearly we went to the holiday cycle, and going in December, coming out of January. And then in about, I don't know, maybe a month ago or less, Lisa, you worked on an updated draft. And I will say this, and maybe Lisa doesn't want me to say this, Lisa spent almost a whole week of work on updating this ordinance, just so you know. It was multiple days and hours. I remember her telling me. So she really dug into it deep. She looked at state code. She looked at water district standards, a lot of things. She looked at even some of the evolution that have been discussions during the legislative session that we were dealing with on these topics and how they would align into what we're trying to accomplish. And also, I think she was getting a pulse both from city council members as well as residents throughout this time to better understand the need and the import of getting this done as we come out of the winter that we haven't had, the full winter, and identify if we're ready to consider or discuss the reality of this kind of language. And so I think she's done a great job. I think I take no, have no issue or concern with her going at it very clearly with very clear legal terminology and guidance and understanding of the code, as well as all of her history knowledge of the previous landscaping ordinance and how it came to be. And she made a very astute, interesting comment before the meeting started that this is taking some sections of code 180 degrees away from where they previously were. So because of elements really that are outside of control that are naturally driven, the code has had to be at least looked at from a completely different perspective than maybe we would have liked it to be seen for the beautification of Centerville City. But now we're dealing with a very different environmental cycle and challenges. So we need to be sensitive to that and flexible with that reality. So that version of the code is found in your packet. It did have some implications and impacts to the Centerville Municipal Code in 11.02, which is Parkstrips. There are some things in Parkstrips that were very rigid about wanting certain types of planning and use, and clearly you don't want them to contradict, so those amendments have been also brought into that code. And we felt like because there was very significant change to these ordinances that it would warrant a public hearing, and so that's why we scheduled it for a public hearing tonight. It made sense to do so in light of the significant changes to it. I will note that I did provide this draft to the Weaver Basin Water Conservancy District, John Perry and David Rice. David Rice did check with the state. They had a minor question. He sent an email to Lisa and I, and Lisa quickly addressed it, and he said, "You're good to go, that's great, thanks for telling me." So we do have that confirmation from them that the version that's in your packet would fly with them for us to be within programming expectations. So I did also invite them to be here tonight, but they're not here, so that I guess tells us the comfortability they have with what we've provided to you in your packet is what I would take that to mean. So with that introduction, and then I guess I will just say the attachments obviously are all those same background documents that the council or the planning commissioners that were with us back during those discussions had, and obviously the two new planning commissioners. This is new information for you, but it's consistent with what has been in every packet prior to, and helps outline the state codes and the water conservation programming that the state of Utah has provided. So with that, I think that's the intro I would provide, and I would defer to Lisa now to start to dig into the actual code amendments and commentary. And I think she wants to go page by page. So I'll turn it over to you,
Perfect.
Lisa, and see how you want to proceed.
Word by
I
word.
take cues, yes. Well, thanks, Mike. That was a great introduction, and I think helpful to have that history for our new commissioners as well as the rest of us, because it's been a while. I had to reread it again today, because as Mike said, I did spend a long time with this, partly because we have an onerous landscaping ordinance that has been amended throughout the years, and then what we're trying to do with this, as Mike said, is really do a 180 where we're saying, hey, we've been requiring lawn in park strips. We've always required that, and now we're saying, no, we don't, So in order to have our residents qualify for this incentive program, we have to make a complete policy change, which is no lawn in the park strip for new development. Okay, so that's the way we need to educate and be pushing it forward. It doesn't mean we're going to go rip up lawn in the park strips. And so I did spend quite a bit of time and a half of a page in our code, which will now sort of have a separate nonconformity standard just for this landscaping, saying, hey, we really don't want this to be triggered by, minor things, because I think that's what the Planning Commission was concerned, as well as staff. What if somebody puts in a new deck? Do they now have to go and rip it out? What if they put in a pool? What if they change the electrical? What if they get a permit? No. My idea is if you completely demolish the home and rebuild a new one, that's substantial new development, and you need to take the lawn out of the park strip at that point. And then the other standard that I put in there is, or you double the size of your home. And we can talk about that one when we get there. But essentially, I think that the other thing that was very problematic in our code is that Chapter 51 really is dealing with commercial landscaping.
Yeah.
We do not require landscaping standards for single-family homes. So we now had to deal with a commercial-only landscaping code and add in some single-family landscaping regulations. And I thought about adding this somewhere else and saying, wait a minute, let's put single family in our residential zone, but the more I played around with it, I thought, so it may seem awkward, but I tried to be clear about, we're talking about every other kind of development other than single family, and then when we're talking about single family, this is where we're going to regulate it. So I can explain some of those, but I appreciate all the concern and discussion that the Planning Commission had, because I think these are things that the council will ask as well as, the residents. But right now, staff has been asked, it's a priority of the council to make sure that Centerville residents can qualify for these incentives, both for, because that's what our residents want to do, as well as conserving water, which I think the council would like to encourage water conservation. So with that, we'll start with page 1. We have 16 pages, and there's some more changes than others, but they're very repetitive. So page 1 is really just saying and restating, because we already stated in our purpose section that we want to promote water conservation, but it was highlighting drought-tolerant plants. So I just took out that purpose and added 2 more that say no. I like the term water efficient. The state law refers to, in 2 different sections, water wise and water efficient. I decided to pick one, which is water efficient. So, and that is the language I believe used in the Land Use Act. So we're going with water efficient. You can change it back to water wise if you want. But anyway, and then also saying, look, this policy change, a specific purpose is to qualify eligible properties for incentive programs. So when people say, why does Centerville not like lawn? We are not against lawn, but we are in favor of want to encourage water conservation and also these incentive programs. So in the scope section, and we could tweak this a bit, but I decided to just be very clear and mention every other kind of use other than non-single family. So saying here in the scope that these provisions apply to commercial, industrial, public facility, mixed use, multifamily residential projects, any kind of building, any zoning, any subdivision, blah, blah, blah. So we could even add to that if you want, and any other non-single family development. But I think we've covered them. But then I had to add a new sentence because this chapter didn't previously apply to residential. So now we're saying single-family residential properties are subject to the lawn and turf restrictions in 1251-065. And they're encouraged to comply with the water-wise regulations in 075. So since we refer to those a lot, I decided let's highlight. So I took the lawn and turf restrictions and made it its own section. So we always know where are those turf and lawn restrictions. So it's its own code section. It's not in this, it used to be in a very lengthy section, 3 pages in. And then I also made our water efficient landscaping its own section of the code. So where are water efficient landscaping standards? 075. So I think for staff, it'll just be easier to implement. And this is the scope. I just wanted to clarify. We can talk later when I talk about non-conforming uses. A non-conformity is an existence on a lot or parcel or building that was once in compliance with the code, and then we changed the code, and now it's not in compliance. And under non-conforming use law, you don't have to fix it right away. If we decide to change the rules and you were compliant, you don't have to fix it right away. But if you do something like you come back to us for something like a permit or something like that, then we require you to bring it up to code. So anyway, but I wanted to clarify because non-conforming use provisions don't exempt you from code requirements. They basically just say, we are going to allow you to exist up until you change or decide to change. So you're not exempt, we're just saying you may continue to the extent permitted, because the other policy consideration is that we will allow nonconformities, but eventually we want our policies to be such that they will get corrected over time. So I didn't want to imply they're exempt. Okay. Landscaping plan required. This is another commercial versus residential fix that we had to do, because commercial properties do have to provide a landscaping plan with their site plan generally. Residential, we don't really want to. So I divided this out and said, look, a landscaping plan is required for any kind of commercial, industrial, et cetera, and a landscaping plan shall not be required for single-family residential development. We don't require, unless it's a PDO or PUD, we don't get into what you put in your front yard other than requiring previously that it was lawn. So, and then I kind of punted, I don't know if you can turn the volume down a little.
Yeah.
I know I speak loudly anyway, but I did put in here that, okay, so a landscaping plan is not required for single-family residential, but I was thinking, but somehow we need to know they met this. So I just stated that those applications have to show compliance with these lawn and turf restrictions and the area percentages. It's kind of vague, and I'm just asking to let staff figure out in our application process what we want that to look like, but I'm just putting that in there because we're going to have to, I don't know, probably make sure that they comply. Okay, then the second page of the landscape plan requirements. just saying, hey, we have these water efficiency requirements, and so in the irrigation and watering plan, under the landscaping plan, I'm just highlighting, don't forget that stuff. Don't forget to show us those new compliance, regulation compliance. And then also stating that, yeah, for properties that are over more than 1 acre, again, just these commercial projects, they have to be prepared by a licensed landscape architect, which starts getting expensive, so. Okay,
Where did you just read that? 1 acre?
that is in B, landscape architect approval.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I wanted to make sure we were in the same place. Okay, thanks, Lisa.
Okay, then waivers. This is something that we've added, I think in our PDO, but I added, the planning commission can waive certain landscaping requirements. But my concern is always that we don't want to inadvertently approve a landscape waiver on a plan on page 127 that we didn't really see and was not highlighted. So I'm adding this sentence that says, such waiver, any kind of waiver, a landscaping waiver that the planning commission approved, must be specifically requested and approved in writing by the planning commission. So if we didn't specifically say this is waived, it's not waived. That's what we're trying to say there, because we missed something. And then, anyway, I thought this language was confusing, that the application has to show that the waiver will be, anyway, but it's in that language. Feel free to ask any questions, like if you guys have questions along the way, we can deal with them as we go. Okay. Okay, so now we get into our landscape guidelines. No, too long. So I did add that landscaping now should be used to promote water conservation through this water efficient landscaping. So adding that to our considerations. And then also realizing, I do see this typo on planting here, I'll fix that. But, plant, yeah, right here, and grass.
Grass plantings. There's no I.
Oh,
I know, Lorraine, you're going to tell me.
Lisa, I actually missed that one.
Stealing your thunder.
I know,
Oh, okay.
but normally I would catch that.
So this is the other thing that was interesting, and I had to think about, is we used to talk about drought tolerant, and we talk about xeriscaping, and hardscape, and ground cover, and, you know, landscaping. And that there is a different reason for some, you know, like landscaping versus hardscaping. You know, Mike and I struggled with trying to define those. But anyway, I think I wanted to just emphasize that now in this code, when we say landscaping, we mean any of those things, any and all, because we are now embracing more water conservation kind of design, which I think incorporates all of those. And we're also looking not only, you know, at the types of plants, but I like the term plant cover, because if you look at the Weber Basin Incentive Program, you can't just rip up your lawn and put in gravel. You rip up your lawn and you put in live plants. It's required, and then that plant has to have a certain coverage. You know, you can't just have one tiny, you know, 8 tiny little plants, but we want plant coverage. So I'm trying to introduce that concept as well. Also, as we've learned from the city engineer, there's a difference between detention and retention. And we keep talking about that. I still don't, I mean, I'm trying to gain it, but so anyway, whenever we say detention, I always add or retention. So you'll see that, that's for Kevin.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
And then this artificial plants, I just deleted it up above in the introduction because it's actually a regulation. So rather than putting it into the introduction, add it to the regulations. So that's in 4. Okay, then we get to ground cover. And here's where we do say, okay, because Mike and I were talking, yeah, we say vegetation or non-organic, anyway. We're just trying to use clear language, so anyway, I just said, unless otherwise provided, which means lawn and turf restrictions, we want, vegetative ground cover, hardscape, all of that. And so that, because here, this section used to be talking about public rights of way, and all we wanted was lawn. So we had to work on that and say, okay, except as otherwise provided, because the last of that says, wait a minute, you can't do lawn and turf in the park strips. Go see
Yeah.
065. Low water usage, so this was a suggestion from Mike about drought-resistant shrubs and trees that we don't actually maintain a list. We should have the professionals just refer to a professionally accepted list, which has been established typical planting standards for the western United States. So I think that's fine, also defined in state code. You'll see that new reference to 1020.
1020 reference.
Yep.
And then also, again, referring to our water efficient landscaping. Okay, without further ado, let's get to 065.
Yeah.
So parts of 065 were sort of spread out in our different sections of the code, and I decided to just collect all these turf restrictions. So Weaver Basin and, residents, and we can just point to this and say, okay, here are the rules. Rule number 1, park strips. So we want to designate what area of the property and what zone, because there's different rules, so that's how I allocated it. Park strips, all zones. So in any zone in the city, no lawn in the park strip. And then, but I was thinking about, so in Title 11 on streets, we define park strip. We all know, if there's a sidewalk, the park strip is the area between the curb to the curb side of the sidewalk. Okay, that 4 feet, whatever it is, that's the park strip. But in our streets provision, we say if there's no sidewalk, this whole 8 feet is considered the park strip. From the curb to, because typically the city owns 8 feet into your lot. That's where the right of way goes, because we want the sidewalk on our property. So the curb and gutter, the park strip, and the sidewalk are all generally on city property. You own back of sidewalk. But if you don't have a sidewalk, we still want you to take care of that whole area. But I was trying to think, if we say no lawn in the park strip and we're now including 8 feet, we don't really want 8 feet of gravel or whatever. So anyway, I decided to handle that by excluding from our definition of park strip, if there's no sidewalk, these regulations don't apply. And Weaver Basin and the state, I did talk to the Weaver Basin guy about this idea, and he seemed to be okay with it.
Okay, yeah, that was my question.
This is so limited, that's fine, but they don't realize, like in Centerville, in our historic district, we have a lot of areas without sidewalks. And I just thought, that, like, let's say somebody demolishes their home and rebuilds a new one, and now we have 8 feet of something that doesn't meet the rest of the neighborhood. So it was, I don't know, it worked.
Well, it makes sense because then you're not restricting, it's a restricted space, a width of, that's their other requirement.
Yeah, with the
Anything,
sidewalk, it makes sense, but
Right.
yeah, now that it's
Yeah.
not.
yeah, then you've got a big area that you're watering, which is not, so it makes sense that Weaver Water would be okay.
So that's what I say, no lawn in the park strips, but for Centerville, if there's no sidewalk, you don't have a park strip.
Yeah,
Or this chapter.
yeah,
Okay. Number 2, narrow areas. So this is the state says if you have an area that's less than 8 feet wide,
yeah.
you can't put lawn in that because it's just too hard to spray.
It's not efficient.
So, and what do we say? No lawn or turf in any area less than 8 feet wide in any zone of the city. Pretty clear. I think it's clearer than the language Weaver Basin gave us, because it made it sound like if any area included something that was 8 feet or less, even though it went out to 50 feet.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to close that down and say, no, it's just the area, it's just that triangle that's less than 8. Okay, number 3. Front and side yards of single-family residential lots. So in order to qualify for this program, which is more restrictive than state law, you can only have, lawn and turf shall not exceed 35% of your front and side yard landscaped areas. That's just a single-family requirement, unless you have a tiny 200 square feet of landscaping, then you can fill the whole thing.
Right. Tiny yard.
And then number 4, total landscape area, not just front and side, for commercial, industrial, multifamily, basically anything other than single family. So single family, we're just looking at front and side, but commercial and everything else, we're looking at all of your landscaped areas together, cannot exceed 15% of the total landscape areas. So, again, I think that one's more restrictive than state. I think state's 20%. But
Yeah, that's cool.
okay, still everybody with me? Okay, so these next two, I guess it's more than half a page. I think the planning commission was very concerned with, when does this apply and when does it trigger to have somebody rip up their park strip that's in lawn? So I have an effective date here, just so it's clear in our code, and we may eliminate that someday, but rather than just saying the effective date and making somebody go look it up, I just put it in here. It's gonna be May 1st, if adopted by then. Any development after May 1st is considered new development. And new development means you're making an application for something new, or you are amending something. So with vested rights, or, that's, whenever you come in for an application, that's new. And then, nonconformities. I did go back and forth with a couple different ways to handle this, but I think what I like to do is say, look, we already have a chapter of our zoning code that deals with nonconformities. And I went there, and it specifically says lawn or landscaping. If you don't comply with landscaping, it's considered an other nonconforming. So we can have a nonconforming use, you can have a nonconforming building, you can have a nonconforming lot, and if it's not one of those, you can have an other nonconforming. So landscaping is other nonconforming. And in order to avoid staff having to do all that research again to figure out what kind, I just said, under our code, this is other nonconforming, so you can just go right to 12.22.080. And for non-single family development, which is all this commercial, I just said, we're just gonna follow exactly what's already in our code, because it's an other nonconformity. So if you have a commercial property and anything in 080 that triggers, it just says you have to bring it into compliance if and when the new development triggers bringing it into compliance under 12.22 nonconformity. And under that 12.22, a commercial business would be required to rip out their lawn if their application or new development increases the building, the square footage increases it by 30% or more, or they increase the value of the building or property by 50%. They're issued a new certificate of occupancy, and Mike and I need to review what we mean by that, because typically turning over a building to the same user and same use, just a new owner, doesn't trigger bringing it up to code. If so, we would completely eliminate any resale value of commercial property in the city. Or a change in the use occupancy type. Now this is, if you wanted to use your warehousing and you now want to use it for a nursery or a school or a dance studio, now you might have to have fire thing. Anyway, that's a different use type.
All changes.
So those are fairly substantial changes. And so that's commercial. With single family, I just said that they're required to bring in, we're going to trigger if the new development involves the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and the construction of a new home. So if you just decide to demolish it because you want to resell or whatever, you can still leave the lawn in. It's just when you start building another home, then we're going to convert it to the new standards. Or if the remodel or expansion increases the total square footage by more than 50%. Those are discretionary lines that I've proposed. I would suggest keeping A. You could eliminate B or say 75%, but it seems like substantial, if you're doubling the size of your home, that's pretty substantial.
And 50% does line up even with like flood damage. So in my previous life, I did the floodplain administration, and FEMA has said 50% damage on the structure that has to be rehabilitated triggers that it has to be brought up to current code. That's actually FEMA standard as well. So that's
And we do say
consistent.
more than 50%. So if
Yeah,
you're right,
so that's
the 50%.
consistent. And that's what FEMA says, it's more than 50%. It's either 50% valuation or 50% impact to the structure. Triggers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, to appease the planning commission, I said, the construction or reconstruction of a garage, a barn, a shed, or other accessory structure to the primary dwelling shall not be considered new development triggering compliance. And we could add other things like, or adding a pool, or, changing a fence, but anyway, you get this is even more substantial than a pool or others, so.
Right.
I think we've said it in two different ways, so. I think it's good, I typically don't like to create an exception on rules because for nonconformity, but I think this one is so unique in terms of, a lot of people want to rip out the park strip and a lot of people like the lawn. So this is one that's going to say, okay, those of you that like the lawn, we're not making you take it out right now, and we're actually probably not going to make you take it out for the life that you're in that home. But new development, if you're going to build a new home, then you can't put it in. Okay, so that was the biggest change. And then 070, I was just trying to clarify some things. Let's see.
A1 and A2 were a little unclear for staff.
Yeah, it says 50% of what?
Yeah.
So it just says 50% of internal landscaping has to be live. I think some of these things on commercial, we may want to revisit, but really remember, 50% of 15% of your site. So it's not a big number. And again, we had to emphasize throughout that whatever we used to be talking about in our landscape ordinance now excludes park strips because we have completely different rules. So you can see excluding park strips and continual reference back to these new standards. Same thing, you'll see can't do that. 065 and 075. Buffer landscaping. Oh, buffer landscaping. And I'm sorry I went outside the guardrails of water-wise landscaping, but I did want to clarify this because buffer landscaping is really only between commercial, like if you have commercial high or medium towards a residential, or if you have residential high to residential low. It's not residential medium to low. So anyway, I use this new term called the source zone because it was always sort of unclear too, who has to do this? Well, the more intense zone. So that's what I'm saying is for commercial, industrial, or non-residential property, meaning you're the source zone, you're the one that has to provide this buffering. Abutting a residential zone has to provide the following. And then also on the other one, clarifying, making it clearer for staff as well, this is the commercial standard and this is the residential standard. And then for high intensity residential property, source of, the intensity that needs to be buffered, abutting a low residential, then you have to have the 15 feet. It's not the residential low that has to provide the buffer. Okay. Then I'm on the top of 10. Let's see, I just added here, to the extent possible, we're still talking about single family, or, well, no, this is actually commercial. The city already adopted water-wise landscaping, the first round of state law a few years ago, and it was not mandatory. It just said, look, these are our water-wise. Well, it turns out it's still not mandatory. So I didn't change that. It just says, look, we encourage you to do this in your creating water-efficient design. Now, some things are mandatory, which we put here, but the water-wise are, I just want to highlight that these are shoulds. It's not required. I was surprised, but it's not required, so I didn't change that. Okay. I think we can go to, I'm on the bottom of left. So see here, water-efficient landscaping. We already had all of this in our code, but I deleted it here and moved it to its own section, because you can see it's subsection H of, how many pages into this section are we now? Oh my
It was
God.
on 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's on the 5th page of one section of code. So I took it out of that and created its own section, 075. And so these are just, if somebody just wanted to print off one section of our code, this is also what's nice. We can just send them to a link to this one, here's our water-wise. We encourage you to comply with this section, and they don't have to read 5 pages of stuff that may not even apply, especially the residential. So we're saying in here, we encourage you to use water-efficient landscaping practices. You can save water, you can save energy, with using these kinds. Most of these were already in our code, so no use of culinary water for irrigation. I did add single family, though, very clearly that you do have to comply with lawn and turf. And you are encouraged to comply with this section. Commercial, you have to comply with the rest of this chapter and are encouraged to comply with these provisions. Lawn and turf restrictions, though, are mandatory. And then here's the water efficient design, landscaping design under F. So number 1, the 90% already in our code. Number 2, rock or mulch, already in our code. The only thing I added there was the last sentence that says, the use of rock or mulch in the Parkstrip is restricted by city ordinance in our street standards. Because our streets department doesn't want mulch in the Parkstrip.
Right.
Because it rains and it goes right down the gutter into the storm drain. They also don't want the super tiny gravel, because that's even worse. That flows off and then gets into our storm drain. It's even harder to get out. Yes.
So I can't remember where I read it, but in here, don't we use the word bark somewhere, or is it just mulch? I thought that I read that somewhere in all of the reading.
Bark. There may be bark.
Is there
somewhere.
bark? So my question is, okay, planters, wood chips, there we go, bark.
No.
There's 7 instances of bark.
Excluding Parkstrip.
Okay,
Yeah.
7, okay, so I did read it. Okay,
Looks like there's 16.
so my question is then, with that, when you say mulch, how are you defining mulch? Because if I'm a homeowner and I'm swapping things out, I'm just wondering, what exactly do you mean by mulch? Do you mean those things below?
I'd probably look it up in the dictionary. It's not defined in here. But, yeah, I did actually look up, I'm like, because I remember thinking, what's the difference between bark and mulch?
So are you
Bark
saying
is-
bark is okay, but mulch is not? Is that what the?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
And when we go to what we said in, because then we have to also look at what we put in Title VI.
Right.
So in there we say, okay, in Title 11, we say the use of concrete, asphalt, coarse wood, or synthetic products such as bark, mulch, and wood chips, or any other material is prohibited within the park strip.
Right, okay.
So,
So the first part is like a general, and then it
like
becomes
bark or
clear.
mulch, it can either be natural or synthetic. It can be recycled, it can be, but it's basically that little stuff made out of plastic or real trees or recycled branches.
Yeah.
So then I guess my further question would be, do we need further clarification where you're stating mulch, or are we accepting what that means lower when you have it all defined?
I would, if you, I guess my sense would be that we don't need a definition of mulch or bark, but we can argue,
Well, I didn't mean the definition, but I meant, are we saying that that's the same thing there? Do we need to say mulch or bark?
well, people have different ideas of different things, so in our Title 11, we say both. I mean, maybe bark is specifically tree-based plant, and mulch, I don't know. Mulch may have dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Other things. I remember looking up the definitions, and now I don't remember, but, people may refer to one or the other, but they're probably different things.
So, I guess I didn't get my question answered, or I'm not speaking clear enough. Sid, go back to that, where she's
Okay, it
talking
just
about.
says the use of rock.
Where is
Okay,
it?
well, actually,
It was at the
I see
top
your
of the
point. So we
page.
should say rock, bark, mulch, or other products in the park strip is restricted by city ordinance, go to 11.02020.
Yes.
This is just saying, hey, this isn't trying to regulate it, it's just saying, go over there because it is regulated.
That's
Okay,
what-
so that was
Okay.
my
I feel like
question.
that's what the code's doing.
Use of, let's be more, that's perfect, that's a
Okay.
great suggestion. So use of rock, bark, mulch, or other materials in the park strip.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
Good.
Does that get it? Okay.
Yeah, that makes
Sorry.
it more clear for me.
Very good.
Is this paragraph 2 that you're looking at?
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
It seems to be, it seems to conflict. Or maybe I just don't.
Well, because what this is saying is rock or mulch or any of these things like in regular planting areas. But where we have to make the distinction is in the park strip. In the park strip, we don't
Okay.
want those things, but in flower beds and other areas.
That's great.
Where you're using
Yeah.
water life.
Right.
That, okay. And that's why I wanted to add that sentence, because it's encouraging rock or mulch in planting beds, but then I was like, wait a minute, but you can't use rock or mulch in the
Yeah,
park
Park
strip.
Strip.
Right,
Again,
exactly.
trying to go 180. Okay. Soil scarification, soil amendments, and irrigation systems, also all just previously in our code. What we did add is, and throughout, this reference to water sense labeled smart irrigation control systems, which is basically just a certification for irrigation control systems that save water. And so when consumers go to the store, they can say, oh, that one's certified to save water, and also, like the state of Utah will give a rebate, they use that same term, water-wise. And so if you buy a certified water-wise smart controller, you can submit a rebate to the state of Utah, and they'll give you money back. So anyway, we're just using that similar language, it doesn't mean you have to use, well, I think it's just saying example, just, use this time, that's what we're recommending. And then number 6 is also currently in our code, but I just wanted to highlight that 7 through 10, I added, because I went through what Weber Basin, so Centerville's saying, we want you to be able to get their incentive. So we're adopting the ordinance that will allow you to apply. But when you apply, they want something a lot nicer than you would think. And so I'm trying to add some of what Weber Basin is expecting, and that's 7 through 10. This is specifically what they recommend to be water wise, water efficient, is that, so if you have a drip system, you'll know that each emitter has a certain, gallons per minute. And they're saying that you need a low volume system, which is rated at 5 gallons or less. Okay, so when you're looking at, that's a lot. But anyway, 5 gallons or less is going to be your low volume. And then they also say, though, that these micro spray and bubbler and soaker hoses, just to help educate people, those are actually not water efficient. Because the sprayers, you're losing, it's evaporating, and the soakers are probably emitting more than that 5 gallons per minute. So you think you're being water wise, but you're not.
But you're not.
So I thought that was good advice. Number 2, overhead sprinklers used for your lawn should not be on the same valve or zone as your drip irrigation. Obviously, because drip irrigation has to run for at least a half hour. They're very low flow drip emitters, and you don't want your sprinklers going, your lawn's going to die or your plants are going to be overwatered. Good advice. Drip irrigation systems should be installed with the filter and pressure regulators. And then also, in addition, total landscaped area should have at least 35% plant foliage coverage for the plant's maturity. And this is where I was saying the plant coverage. And this is what Weber Basin wants. Just remember, these are all optional, and, maybe you don't want this. You're like, no, we don't want to get too requiring, but we're not. We're just saying, hey, these are encouraged. So let's give our residents, the information, which is, we want 35% plant foliage coverage at its maturity. And then they also say, and by the way, those annual pansies, we're not going to count those.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
made sense to me. Watering times, that was somewhere, and I just pulled it back up to make sure that it's also regulated in our water in Title IX. But let's just remind people, because so often we're asked, where's our regulations about sprinklering? And it is kind of hard to find in our code, so, because it's under sprinklers, not water restrictions. Again, it just really matters what you're searching for and what terms you use. And then the state law, our previous code had the reference, which I like, to remind staff, and, hey, the state has water efficient standards in the state code, so you might want to go look at those. That's all that one is. Ray, did you have another question on?
I did. So you said you're like 7 through 10 on that page that you just read, you're trying to incorporate.
The Weber Basin.
Right, Weber Basin thing. So to that point, not that I want to die on the mulch and bark hill, but it seems that I am. So in their document that was sent over, page 1 of 3 under the program process, so it states that there is a usage of bark and mulch, but we say no. So that contradicts. Is that going to be a problem at all?
You can use bark and mulch, just not in the Parkstrip.
Okay, so
And so
maybe
if
I
you go
just,
up to 2, we do say, we use the same Weber Basin language that says, hey, if you're going to use rock or barch or mulch, we recommend you use at least 3 to 4 inches to prevent the weed growth. And that, those areas still need to be permeable to air, or your plants are not going to grow. So,
I guess I'd have to pull it up, but I was just, when we were reading that, I had read previously, it just seemed like there was a contradiction in there. Maybe I misunderstood how they wrote it.
in their provision or in our provision?
In theirs. So go to their, I think their landscape lawn, go up, Sid, right, up. One more, go down. I think that one.
Page, what page?
Page 1 of 3 under program process. I don't know if this is the document or not. Let's see. Okay, program process, keep going. Somewhere right in there, hold up. Nope, let's see. No, go down a little bit. Go back. Sorry, the other way. The other way of what you're doing. Okay, stop. I have somewhere in here. Let me read just a second. and the final product, which includes mulch, bark, or rock. So
Where's that?
it is the second to the last bullet point.
Photos of each step. This includes grass before removal, grass removal, irrigation system, and the final product.
This is the second to last bullet on page 77.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true, because Weaver Basin allows bark or mulch in the Parkstrip for their program. Centerville City does not, because our streets department says,
We're the one
no, we
restricting
don't
it."
want
Oh,
that.
okay. So
That's the difference.
we're incorporating all of the stuff that we want.
We restrict
That we
it.
accept.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think as
Okay.
staff, we have on our to-do, which sometimes these get put way at the bottom of the list, but I think we need to have another conversation with the streets department, which they know we're doing this, and I said, look, do you want to stick with what you have? Because if we're ripping up, or we're not allowing any more
Yeah.
lawn, we need to broaden our list of things that they can put in there, but we didn't want to go there with this round, because it's, anyway.
And I'm
Yeah.
I
telling
think we can
you,
get there.
bark is not a great thing, living next to
Yeah.
bark
The initial
near me, and it
comment
always
back
blows in
was,
my yard, yeah.
we like it the way it's drafted, so
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I didn't want to,
Thank you for that clarification.
okay. Then I think that is it for that one, and then I'm just making similar changes. Well, I wanted to suggest changes to Title 11, so we're being consistent. So I added to Title 11, under our definition of Parkstrip, again, hey, remember, our definition of Parkstrip, regardless of what we say here, for purposes of the landscaping section, it's not a Parkstrip. And then we had to add the entire first paragraph, sentence there, because we used to require mostly lawn, but now we don't want any lawn, so don't look at the landscaping provision. It's basically referring back.
Okay.
Yeah. Complete policy change from
Yeah.
red to green. Okay. All right, I think that is it. And so, as Mike mentioned, we sent this over to Weaver Basin. I did talk to Dave Rice. He had gone through it, had a couple questions. He said, we're good. And then he sent he had forwarded it to the state, I think. And they said they're fine. They had a question about whether this included our public facility zone. And I said, yes, I'm trying to list everything in here. And he said, okay, because I think I said, do they want to make sure they were included or that they were not? Because, then there was this question about schools, but anyway, I just said, yeah, public facility zones are included, all zones.
Yeah,
because they
all
have-
zones.
So all zones. So I think if this is adopted, then Centerville residents would be eligible for the incentive program, which is the main.
Focus, right, yeah, this is the goal.
Nice work.
Yeah, that's a lot, that's a lot.
Very thorough.
Well, it was, I thought about just having two different chapters in our code, because it was a mess, but I think we got there.
Well, the heavy lift is apparent, so
Yeah.
nice work. Any questions for staff from the commission?
No, I have a couple comments. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I just want to say, seriously, Lisa, you nailed it. You did a masterful job incorporating our concerns and our questions and clarifying definitions. I'm very black and white, basic, visual person. I don't do legalese or legal speak, but this all makes sense to me now. I appreciate you using water efficient. It makes more sense in my head than water wise. And I think that everything in the code, the rules, the language is clear. I really like it.
Well,
So,
thank you. And I want to thank Mike and Sydney, obviously Mike did most of the base work on this as well, and was helpful.
Thank you,
I
Mike.
had to
Thank you,
bounce a few
Sid.
ideas off of him. I'm like, how am I going to do this? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell that's a lot of work. Thank you.
Credit to be had all around.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to open it up for the public hearing. If anybody wants to provide comment, please come to the mic, state your name and your address. No, got to go to 7. And seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Come back to the commission for discussion and/or a motion.
Let me just look at my notes to see if there's anything you might want to change. I think there was just that one suggestion.
Lisa,
that-
Lisa, on one thing on section 8, this is just I'm wondering if it's a typo, I don't know that it is. Section 8, under that large paragraph, or large A, there, you got 3
Oh, yeah,
I's,
Oh, yeah, okay.
okay?
I
Excellent. Yeah.
noticed that too.
I will say, I don't know if you've noticed the difference, but we have our municipal code online, and as part of their software, they have an ordinance creator. And this year, I decided to finally use it. It's great, it's not that it's not like Word, and you can't change what it looks like when it comes out, like, this is what it's going to look like, but if we adopt this, all we have to do is push a button, and the whole code is just changed. You don't have to take from a Word document and peck it into your, HTML, it's just done. So anyway, I will check, and numbering is one of those things that I've been struggling with, because it won't, sometimes I just have to trick it, but I'll make sure on the final, to go back and fix that. So if we could say, we have, for the record, why don't we say we have a typo on page 4 regarding plantings,
Oh, yeah.
060B, and then we have a numbering issue under 070A, and we wanted to make that one suggested change about bark and mulch on, here it is, on page 14, section F2, the use of rock, bark, mulch, or other material in the park strip is restricted by other city ordinances. Yeah, I think that's it, those three changes.
We did not provide a model motion because I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for any conditions or even finding guidance, we might have to have staff help out unless you have some ideas. So that's why I wasn't quite sure where to go and how Lisa would want to lead the discussion. So that's the reason for that.
Well, I'm fine. I mean, I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation to the city council that we grant to staff scrivener's authority to make changes as necessary to their non-substantive, to smooth and catch nits, also as discussed, along with the modifications that Lisa just listed, for the reasons that it's a good ordinance.
I second the motion. I like that.
There we
Well
go.
done.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll start down here with Commissioner Mendon.
Aye.
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 That's unanimous. Good job. Heavy lift.
Great
Well
work,
done.
yeah. Awesome.
Stage 2. All right, Mr. Eggett, let's move on to the update.
Yeah, so staff report, I was thinking about it. I'm going to have tomorrow, attending a legislative report summary. So I'll get some more findings and hopefully report a little bit more efficiently to the planning commission.
Is that the leagues or is that a different one?
I can't remember which one I signed
know.
up for.
Yeah, I think
I've seen a few.
It might be the leagues. There's one at noon tomorrow.
Yeah.
So is that the one that's leagues? Yeah, so I'll be at that one as well. Sounds like Lisa will. As far as kind of the sentiment, I think from the league relative to land use, it wasn't a hyper-regulated year. The biggest thing will be there's some unique findings to how the planning commission behaves and should and shouldn't behave relative to conversations outside of the planning commission. So there's some behavioral corrections that the legislature intended relative to planning commission commentary outside of the planning commission, which was interesting. And there's some land use changes. I believe the detached ADUs did get approved.
So,
We'll get a verification tomorrow in that.
But over 11,000 square feet.
Oh, now, so they changed it
And a
from
lot
10
of
to
our-
11.
11,000?
That was 10 before.
It was 10,000, no, 10,000 square feet
10?
was the
Okay,
10.
because I had heard 11, and I
Yeah.
thought, well, that's
10.
perfect, because most of ours are.
10,000 was the minimum cap.
Oh, you meant for the lot size?
Yeah, lot size.
Yeah, lot size.
That's what it is.
I know, I was like, that's a big house.
Yeah, not very many.
Really, really nice mother-in-law house.
So, there's still needs to clarify, that will, like I said last time, lead to us having to then have some kind of a code in place. There is a deadline that code has to be in place, I think it's November 30th or something like that, to give us plenty of time, might be October 1st, but something in that area. A good news piece, at least for me, thank goodness they did this. They moved the moderate income housing reporting process from Department of Workforce Services, Department of Housing, and it's now being relocated to the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. As a result, they'll have to create a whole new staff and a new department, and so the reporting requirement this year is tabled. So that's a good thing. It's really good because we need to get our general plan approved, so I have something to work with when I'm reporting, and not just continually punting the general plan is the reason I don't have good reporting features. So that's a good win for our city, having that available, or having that, I guess, paused until next year. By then, I'm very hopeful and optimistic we will have a general plan in place that will have housing features that I can then use for my reporting. So that's a good thing. But that's pretty much all I kind of wanted to get into. I think I'll have a more in-depth report, especially the things that affect the planning commission at the next meeting. I also think that they went into a little bit more on training again. There's some things that are now expectational guides on training, where you still have to get your 4 hours a year, but now there's some even further guidance on what that training should look like. So I'll get more specifics and share with the planning commission at a future meeting. That's what I have.
Well done.
Oh, and then, I believe we don't have any agenda items for the meeting on March 25th. So that will, if the planning commission is comfortable with it, that would be a cancellation notice. If
All
you're
those in
comfortable
favor
with
say
that.
aye.
So, okay, that's all I have.
That's penciled out.
Good idea.
All right, so let's move, thank you, Mr. Eggett. Let's move on to the minutes. In the review of the minutes, did anybody have any suggested changes?
I didn't see
I
any.
do.
Yes, please.
I think
Commissioner.
on that second page, line 4 and 5, I'm not sure that reads correct. It says removing the vehicle and Centerville City Planning Commission.
Wait, what?
Page 2.
Second page, 4, 5.
I think
Oh,
that
page
just
2,
got
4, 5.
somehow slipped in there. I'm not sure.
Vehicle rental or sale.
Because it should be, I think it's
Oh,
vehicle,
yeah.
vehicle and equipment
yeah.
rental.
You're right.
Centerville City Planning Commission should be
Oh,
deleted.
it's like a header.
Yeah,
Header got
Yes,
stuck in there.
somewhere.
yeah, it should be,
Good catch, Paul.
so, yep.
Well done.
With that, I'm okay with it.
Oh, I see, yeah, there.
All right, I will take a motion.
I'll move that the minutes for the meeting of Wednesday, February 25th, 2026 be approved as amended.
Right. I've got a motion.
I'll second.
I've got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are poised for adjournment. I'll take a motion.
Let's make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, I've got a first and a second. All those in favor